Holy bat music.
Another scary night, another spooky fright, and we just might be in danger. Oh, the ghost is here and it's always a fake. The ghost is here, there's no reason to shake. The ghost is here, oh, give us a break. It's fake.
Batty minutes, where are you? We're right here. We're back, baby. It's Bat Minute. Back from its short hiatus break there to come at you with a Halloween special. Hey! I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
I am your other host, Scrappy John Parker.
Ooh.
Luckily, Scrappy's not in this.
Yep. Never mentioned. Not even vaguely addressed, Scrappy Doo. Jeez Louise. But yeah, we're here today to talk specifically about Scooby Doo Monster Island for reasons which will become apparent as we progress through the episode. But we're here joined today with me and John is a guest to a man of many fandoms. One of them being the Scooby Doo fandom. We've got Rob O'Connor here with us.
ZOINKS! I won't be doing that all night, I promise. But that's my best. Did that even come through? Were you able to hear that, or did it just peak the mic?
It peaked the mic, but I could kind of make out it was a ZOINKS. Like, I got the concept, but like not the actual.
That makes it funnier.
I do find he is like one of the most difficult impressions to do, Shaggy.
Yeah.
Because everything just kind of goes like, it's like, no, not even vaguely close. Like it just goes into a high-pitched raspy thing. So if you can pull it off, Shaggy, like you're pretty good.
I think the only word I can do, and I'm not going to do it on air, people, I think I can sometimes pull off the ZOINKS. That's it.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, Niall, because this film in particular, it's Billy West's one and only turn as Shaggy.
Yeah,
because he had such trouble getting the voice right, and it wrecked his vocal cords, so he didn't want to do it again after that.
No, fair play. I mean, Billy West obviously hard up for work. Doesn't get many jobs these days, unfortunately. Poor Billy West.
I'll tell you what, though, I know
it was a lean Christmas at the West House that Christmas.
It might have been difficult for him, but as a non-aficionado, I watched Scooby Doo as a kid. I don't know much about it though. I thought he did very well.
Yeah. Well, basically to introduce the episode, just to get that out of the way. Yeah, Scooby Doo Zombie Island, which is regarded as like, if not one of the best, then just flat out the best Scooby Doo movie. By a lot of the fandom, like from my understanding. I'm not as entrenched in the Scooby-Doo fandom as some people, but from what I've heard, the word is that this is the best one.
Yeah, this would be the apex of the Scooby-naissance of the mid-90s, Niall, if you wish. It's Scooby-Doo's first flirtation with a real budget and like a real kind of dedicated, animation studio, and like a really, really good story. Pushes the boat out a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
There's been a long history of Scooby-Doo straight to video movies ever since, and it is fairly commonly regarded as being the best one. This one, and the ones that come after it are pretty good too. But this one is definitely probably the best one. I like this one.
I'll just get it out of the way as well. I was surprised how much I liked it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, this is going to be a bit cringy, isn't it? Yeah.
And there are bits of it that are.
But in like a fun way. Because I found the story to be quite clever. You know, the way it was making fun of... Like, a lot of the time, this movie makes fun of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Which was great.
It's that. Almost very tellingly the first Scooby-Doo property made after Scream came out.
Oh,
it has that same thing of like, well, you have to point out that the things are a bit silly now, because that was every slasher film after Scream had to be like, well, you have to point out that it's a trope now. And so to come back to Scooby-Doo is like, well, I think one of the reasons this was made is that, Scooby-Doo was obviously a very successful franchise from like 1970 up until the early 90s. Where I think it sort of tapped out with a pup named Scooby-Doo, which was the one I grew up on. That was kind of my Scooby-Doo when I was a little kid.
Oh, I don't think I watched that one, Oh,
I used to love a pup named. Again, one of the, like every show we mentioned in the last season, like all those cartoons, the theme tune still bopping around in my head. And I just always remember they had a really good recurring joke.
Scoop, Scoop, Scooby Doo, Scoop, Scoop.
Oh, I have heard that.
Scooby Doo, Scooby, a pup named Scooby Doo, Scooby Dooby Doo.
See, I think I always watched the older ones, not deliberately, not to be pretentious. I wasn't pretentious yet.
I think they just had them on. Like, Pup Named Scooby-Doo was like the current one, but then you'd still get like, with repeats of like the Hair Bear Bunch on BBC Two, you'd be like, here's the old Scooby-Doo as well, just in case, you know.
Yeah.
But then,
I grew up liking Scrappy Doo. I didn't realise people hated him.
Yeah. That's one of those things.
Scrappy Doo's a funny one because I feel like James Gunn, who wrote the first Scooby-Doo movie, he sort of rewrote history a little bit by deciding that everybody hated Scrappy Doo. And like, you know, in fact, when they introduced Scrappy, it was because they wanted to appeal to younger kids. They wanted like something cute in there, and it worked. And like Scrappy Doo, kind of the ratings rose a little bit, and they kind of were able to keep it going for a little bit longer. So this whole thing that everybody hates Scrappy, and then I think people also associate Scrappy with well, once he showed up, the other guys left, and that there is an element of truth to that. But also, I think they reduced the episode lengths, so they were just like little mini skits. So it didn't really make sense to have this huge cast when you only had like 6 minutes to tell a story. Whereas, you know, Scrappy was kind of like a consolidation of all the intelligent characters, and then Shaggy and Scooby are just the comic relief, you know?
Yeah.
I do prefer it when he's not there, but like I think that the hatred is probably amplified by the movie from the early 2000s where he's made into the villain at the end.
And clearly it was just people who, let's be honest, were probably aging out of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Getting annoyed that it's a bit like people with Jar Jar, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't hate Jar Jar as much as some people, but I did semi-defend him for a few years. Go, no, he's not the worst thing in the movie. And then a couple of years ago, I did rewatch The Phantom Menace again. I was like, you know what? He is quite annoying.
He's quite annoying. And kind of racist.
Oh, totally.
Like a lot of stuff in episode 1.
I think, though, like I never had so much a problem with Scrappy. It was that other guy who showed up who was like the doofus.
Oh, like, Scooby Dum.
Scooby Dum. I remember when he showed up, I was a bit like, what's this guy doing here? Like, what is this now? Come on, you had a perfect formula, and now you're just messing it up. But I guess they're just like, yeah, we had a perfect formula that we drove into the ground. Like, it's just...
You got to find a new thing, yeah.
The thing is, they're like, you know, we can't just keep doing the same story with the same characters over and over and over again. And yet, 30, 40 years after even making that decision, Scooby-Doo remains today. Where it's
yes, it does.
You know, they just still, like, will reinvent it in every other kind of aspect where, you know, they had that... It was recently that, like, the live-action Velma and Daphne, like, high school thing that I didn't watch, but I remember that coming out. And then, obviously, Velma then with, what's her name?
Mindy Kaling.
Mindy Kaling. I was going to say Kelly from The Office, but like she's more than that. And that came out and revamped a whole lot of stuff. But even in the midst of all that, it's like, no, if you go on Cartoon Network or whatever, there is still a normal, quote-unquote, version of Scooby-Doo being produced where it's like Mystery Inc. And it's like, yeah, this is just the show that you know and love and stuff.
I think it's a fairly timeless conceit like that. You know, the original format of the show was... a bunch of teenagers, normal, relatable teenagers. They're not superheroes, but they're kind of going up against supervillains. Yeah. But then ultimately all these kind of supervillains and boogeymen that we're told to be afraid of, well, they're just artificial fabrications of greedy capitalists trying to maintain the crooked order. You know, there's something really timeless and beautiful about that. And then this movie, it's kind of the exception that proves the rule. Like, you know, sometimes there are actual supernatural forces beyond our control, but even then, they're usually just being manipulated by greedy capitalists.
Yeah,
yes, you've got to keep that in there.
And you see that in the later straight to video movies, and indeed in the live action movie with Rowan Atkinson and all that kind of stuff. Like they have that same idea. And the show Supernatural, which I really, really like, and takes a lot of nods from Scooby Doo, does a lot of that stuff as well. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, that with the newer Scooby Doo movies, they have this like strict rule that the ghosts have to be fake every time. Like there cannot be any real supernatural elements, which kind of like, on the one hand, it's like, well, that's probably a better message for kids. Yeah. But on the other hand, if you're an aging Scooby file like me, you're kind of like, well, that's a bit lame.
Well, I thought, I mean, maybe over the years this has been, you know, done again and again. But what really struck me with this was the 100% commitment to supernatural thing. Because I thought, it's going to be vague. Like, is it real? Is it fake? But it's like, no. It's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 100% real. And it's interesting because, like, everybody thinks that this is the first time that Scooby-Doo went up against real monsters. But actually, once the Scrappy Doo years came in, they kind of gave up on the masked guys, and it was generally real ghosts every week.
Well, there was a whole show called the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, which is like a one season wonder where Shaggy had a new outfit and everything.
Shaggy had the red shirt Shaggy, baby. That's how you know that stuff is really going down.
Yeah, but the whole central conceit of that was like, they accidentally unleashed like from the box of demons.
The chest of demons. I have a t-shirt with the chest of demons on it that I absolutely love. And John, you would absolutely love 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo because their kind of mentor in that show is a man named none other than Vincent Van Gogh, voiced by Vincent Price in every episode. It's really good.
What? This is the most perfect How have I not heard of this? What?
Yeah.
I say it's really good. I mean, it's bad, but it is also very, very good. And there's an episode where Scooby retires, and like the whole nation panics, and like Ronald Reagan addresses the United States and says, "Scooby-Doo, your country needs you."
Oh, that is a great line. Oh,
unmissable.
That seems. I didn't realize that he was so wildly known, Scooby-Doo. Just like again, everything about the Mystery Incorporated crew is a mystery to me because it's like they seem to just go from place to place. I was like, are they getting paid for solving these mysteries, or is it just like when they reveal like, yes, it was Old Man Withers? Are they like, so that's about 500 usually?
Yeah, they leave it like that'll be 10 grand, I think.
Yeah, because I know the original concept of Scooby Doo was that it was supposed to be like they were a traveling band. They're going to be called like the Mysteries 5.
Yeah,
with a dog called Too Much.
That is too much.
But then I remember as I saw that, like doing the research, and I was like, this all sounds really familiar. And then I realized, because we, in one of the last episodes of the Batman Into the Phantasm season, we're talking about Chuck Norris Karate Commandos.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a little kid in that called Too Much. Yeah. And it's like, that's another Ruby Spears product from the Hanna-Barbera. It's like, they clearly went like, no, we didn't name him Too Much. But I'm thinking Too Much in Chuck Norris Karate Commandos is like a throwback to when they were going to call Scooby-Doo that originally. But that kind of makes sense as a thing of like, oh, so they're a traveling band, and then... Because everything about Scooby is like we want to make something similar to Archie, and the success of Sugar Honey Honey, the Archie's band, will have a musical show where these guys solve mysteries in between concerts, and then somehow the whole musical aspect got dropped pretty much, and now you are just
in this.
Yeah, but now you're just there going like, how can they afford these giant sandwiches? Like, it's about to start with like Scooby and Shaggy just going over this order like about 40 times the sandwich they would normally be given. Never paid for it. And the guy's just like, hey, see you later, guys. It's like, that's your entire stock for the week gone, man. What are you doing about these friggin' stoner wastrels over here?
It's a business expense.
Well, it's never clear what age they are either. Like sometimes they're teenagers, like they're 16, 17, and they refer to like high school and all that sort of stuff. And then in this, it feels like they're 30.
Yeah.
They're going around producing like this, Coast to Coast with Daphne Blake. It's like this reporting show, and Fred's their producer. It's like, I thought we were in high school. And then like later movies, they refer back to this movie, but they're said to be only like 16. It doesn't make any sense.
No, that makes no sense. And you've got Shaggy and Scooby working at the airport.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's Scooby, it's implying he's a drug dog.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Like, that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. I do like that, though, because, everybody always infers that Scooby snacks are really drugs, and, Shaggy's always stoned and things like this. So it kind of ties into that, like, drugs are in their wheelhouse a little bit.
I thought it was just weird, like the idea of Scooby like sniffing out heroin and like cocaine and stuff. It's like they seem like they're more weed people, quite frankly. But
plus, Scooby ain't no narc.
Yeah.
My brain immediately went to, this is not a job that they would have after 9/11. A couple of years later, it's like, maybe we got to get out of Dodge, Scoob.
Well,
they don't do very well at the job, to be fair.
No. Well, this whole opening act, though, to me was a bit... Because, the opening act really is like they solve a mystery, and then it's like, yep, we're kind of done now with Mystery Inc.
I love that opening. But by the way, the way it just starts in the middle of something.
Oh, yeah, they do a classic James Bond opening where it's like, here is the end of an adventure you just missed. But then I don't think there's, unless they were just like, we just need, this is for time. Otherwise, it'll come in under 70 minutes. It does seem weird that they're just like, yeah, the gang's all broken apart. Oh, wait, no, we're back together again. Like, they get back together within record time. Like, at least with, I'm not a big fan of the Jimmy Gunn, we call him not Raj Al Ghul, Raja Gosnell?
Raja Gosnell, yeah.
Raj Al Ghul's Scooby Doo. But at least they did something with like, oh yeah, the gang's broken apart and now they're slowly knitting back together. It was annoying as a kid because you just want to see the Scooby Gang doing Scooby Gang stuff, and it's like you have to wait kind of like the whole film before they're properly there as a unit again. But
I agree. I do think that film did better with that, and it showed like their conflicting egos, and they kind of butt heads on a bunch of stuff, and then they kind of decide, right, well, I've had enough, I quit. Well, you can't quit, I quit, and they properly break up. Whereas in this, it's kind of like, yeah, I guess the ghosts are just always fake, so let's just give up for a while, maybe.
Yeah.
There's not really any kind of character reason for it.
Yeah, there's no. I kind of found it refreshing that there was no like fallout. It's a very amicable breakup.
Like, it's like a realistic kind of.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, we're just done, and there's no. And then when they get back together, they're all really happy. There's no sort of like friction, which is, a lot of people will be like, well, that's the drama. You need there to be friction, but I found it quite refreshing that they're like, no, we're just getting back to it, and like, yeah, everyone's happy to see each other. Velma's got her occult books.
Oh, did that remind anyone else of Ray from Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
It was exactly like that when she took the phone call.
Yeah. Just like Shaggy come in and start like twisting her. I remember that scene in Ghostbusters 2 when Venkman comes in to Ray's occult books and he starts like twisting his ear to get info. But whatever weird headphones or whatever Ray's got on, I thought he was literally tearing the skin off his ear. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Peter Venkman's pretty sadistic over here. But so years later, it's like, no, it's just like he's wearing a weird like thing for his glasses or something that's there. But
no, I'm gonna watch it with that in mind now.
Yeah. And then,
did you notice the book that when she answered the call and the guy was asking for a book? Did you notice the book that she mentioned?
No. What was it?
The hair razor series.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is good. See, but this is the thing. Stuff like that is amazing, but it means absolutely nothing to kids.
Yeah.
It's although there was a bit later on too, though, when the sort of the one of the ghosts starts sort of they find a skeleton and then he starts like reconstitutioning himself.
That was amazing.
I thought, that's quite Hellraiser-y.
Yeah.
But we should point out though, because one of the classic tropes of Scooby Doo was way back in the day how horrifically cheaply animated it was, and this is just like nope. Like it's like they went up, they got their pup named Scooby Doo, then the show just stopped for a bit. Presumably, there's a boost in popularity from stoned Gen Xers really just remembering Scooby Doo
was back.
Yeah, totally. And then, like, a mere 7 years later or whatever, yeah, we're making a Scooby Doo movie now. And it's like, yeah, we're putting a budget behind it because very noticeably within the opening couple of shots, you're like, this is incredibly well animated in comparison to like even like the sequel to this that came out like a couple of years ago. Doesn't quite look as good as this. Like it's pretty impressive because then it was like a straight to video. Sort of like throw out a Scooby-Doo movie for the weirdos out there, I guess.
And interestingly, I think I only read this today, but apparently they did plan on releasing this theatrically at one point, and they kind of went, well, hang on a second, have a look at these Batman straight-to-video animated movies we did. They did way more money on video, so why don't we just push this out on home video and put all of our money and our promotional budget behind it and just put it out on video and see how it goes. And it made a ton of money, and it made so much money that they kind of went, maybe we could do a live action Scooby-Doo movie and release that in the theaters, and that made so much money. So it all comes back to Zombie Island.
I was going to blame Batman for denying us this in the cinemas, but okay, it's a good thing.
Yeah. I should also note as well too, they keep saying like, oh yeah, the pup named Scooby-Doo was like their last gasp on TV for a while. And of course the people behind that were, well, one of them was Tom Ruger, who would then go on to Tiny Toon Adventures, and then Animaniacs, and then Freakazoid, which we covered ad nauseum last season because it was like every friggin' person was. And I got the great pleasure too when I was talking with getting Dan Reba's like some of his headshots and stuff, and just been able to tell him like, oh yeah, I've been showing like my friend's kid Freakazoid, and he absolutely loves it. And it's just really nice to be able to go together. Like, this show still works amazing for kids. Like, and he's like, yeah, I'm insanely proud of Freakazoid. Like, everyone, it just didn't get the audience it should have back in the day. It's like,
I've got to go back and watch this because I saw the occasional kind of episode. But again, as I've always said, I wasn't a big cartoon person. I think I'd like it now.
Oh, it's so apparent though, like so apparent that it's just these guys having fun for themselves. Like
that's what I want. Yeah.
This whole recurring jokes about like Sinbad getting a sitcom and how everybody hates Sinbad, the comedian and stuff. And like all these kids at a summer camp telling sort of scary stories, and it's that Sinbad got another syndicated sitcom and stuff like that.
See, we appreciate that because Sinbad wasn't a thing over here, and I don't get him.
Yeah.
He's not bad. He doesn't annoy me. He's just not funny either. It's like, okay, yeah, fine.
Like Jingle All the Way, Sinbad, that guy?
Yeah. That guy, yeah. There's recurring jokes throughout Freakazoid just about Sinbad having a sitcom and how terrible it was.
Oh, that works for me.
But anyway, Scooby Doo. I should really mention too, actually, the reason we're covering this film in particular.
Oh, yeah.
one of the things, and I have to say, I think it's before they knew what they had, because Mark Hamill is in this movie, so therefore it ties into the previous season. And he's pretty much wasted in it. Like, it's a kind of... I have a feeling if they knew, like, that he was going to be like, yeah, everyone... He was already the Joker. He was already celebrated for that. But I think they were still like, yeah, he's just a guy. Like, he's not the big deal. Whereas this has been made 10 years later. He would have been, like, one of the... He would have been that FBI guy or whatever. Like, the undercover cop who's...
I think, though... I think that there was a method to their madness there a little bit, though, because when you see Mark Hamill in the credits, you're like, oh, well, like, he's going to be the bad guy, clearly. And he plays a red herring in this. He plays a guy called Snakebite Scruggs, who looks like Crocodile Dundee, and he looks like he's really going to, like, mess someone up, and then he's kind of just nothing. He doesn't really factor into the film at all. So, when you kind of think of it, I thought that was... And he's not the only... Batman alum in this, of course.
No. There's several as we go throughout. It was one of the ones that was like, oh, there you go, Mark Hamill. That's enough. That'll sustain the episode. That's enough of an excuse to get us in there. But no. We go on. We have both Tara Strong, or at this point she was like, what was her
Tara Charandoff. I had to look at that as well.
Yeah. Which I was surprised. I had no idea that like. Well, seen the name pop up in the credits, I was like, don't know who that is. And I'm like, no, you do know who that is, because she's in friggin' everything all the time. And then, of course, the great Adrienne Barbeau is our, spoilers, our main villain. What's our surprise as it goes on? Playing a cat woman.
Yes.
Which feels very deliberate. Like, they knew enough, like, yeah, we got Mark Hamill, the Joker here, and then we got, well, who did Catwoman on that show? Adrienne Barbeau.
I forgot to look this up, but I know Andrea Romano has been the voice director of a bunch of Scooby Doo stuff. I don't know if she did this one in particular, but she's all over Scooby Doo as well.
Like, there's a couple of familiar, even in the opening credits, you see like Gene McCurdy and stuff pops up again as well. There's a lot of the same. I think it's just the whole thing, like all 90s American animation seems so incestuous now. Like, because like, everybody's working on everything all the time.
It's a smaller group than you think.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, the name of that guy, Cam Clark.
Yes.
Like, as soon as he showed up, he's the guy, Bo, who's like the gardener. Or whatever. Like,
I was genuinely, because I'm a sucker, I was genuinely surprised he wasn't evil, can I just say?
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
Because I thought it's Scooby Doo. It's going to be quite like straightforward. It's like, oh
no. John, you probably won't remember this, but in A Pup Named Scooby Doo, they had this like schoolyard nemesis, and in every episode, Fred thought that this guy was the villain of the episode.
Yeah.
And the character's name literally is Red Herring.
Yeah. Oh, that's genius. Come on, that's great.
No, it's fantastic. Literally every time, as soon as the mystery would start, Fred was like, oh, I know it's that Red Herring.
I know who it is. I need to point this out, by the way. A Pup Named Scooby Doo has an episode where they go up against a drug dealer. And it's a full on like, oh my God, Scooby's dealing drugs! Like it's one of these after school special type episodes. It's amazing.
So maybe Scooby is a narc then.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when they were looking for a new job, it's like, well, we have experience in taking out drug dealers, pal.
Now I want a crossover where they have to take down Walter White.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, when that guy, I keep calling him FBI. He's not FBI at all. He's like an undercover cop. But yeah, when Bo, the gardener, shows up and you heard him speak, did he sound familiar at all to you, John? Like as a... He
did, but I deliberately didn't look it up because you told me you're going to be researching this stuff. So it sounded like someone... Is it someone from Batman?
No, he's like... No. Did you know who it was? You might have
didn't. I also had the same reaction. I was like, that's definitely someone. And I was like, is that your man from the Spider-Man cartoon? And it's not him. I'll let you say who it is now.
Oh, well, as soon as he started speaking, I was like, and he's done it in several shows. But as soon as that voice came out, I was like, oh, it's Leonardo from the Turtles. Yeah. Like, that's it. So synonymous, that voice in my head. It's just like, and the thing is, it's throughout my entire life, that Cam Clark still popped up and stuff. And every time, it's like, he just sounds like Leonardo from the Turtles.
But he's doing kind of like a darker voice than he does in Turtles. So like it's slightly hidden. That's why I thought it might be Christopher Daniel Barnes, because he's doing that kind of like symbiote Spider-Man voice kind of thing. Shocker!
Yeah. I'll lead you to the ends of the earth. No, but the thing is, though, because he is in literally hundreds of things, this guy.
Yeah.
And so there might be like many, many times I've heard his voice and not recognized it, but it's just like, well, for a voice actor, he always kind of sounds like the same to me. But at the same time, I will say, like, the thing we not criticize Mark Hamill for, but like it's notable in the more recent performances, Mark Hamill always seems to be kind of doing his Joker voice, and you know he can do more. And in this, he's doing a completely different voice. You wouldn't know, oh, that's the same guy who did the Joker. And he's actually popped up there just this past weekend in The Fall of the House of Usher. He's in that as well. Yeah, awesome. live. He's great in it too. He's like the family lawyer who's just like completely unscrupulous. He's just the really shady guy, all dressed in black, sitting in the corner of the table. And if you need something horrifically dirty done, you go to Mark Hamill. And
I'm intentionally not watching that because I know if I watch it, it'll be the only thing I watch from now until Halloween. I'm trying to watch like loads of other horror movies, and then when we get into November, I'll watch that. I think I'm really looking forward to it.
It is good. It's no Midnight Mass, but it's like it's much campier, much vampier, but it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun. But yeah, and he's doing. But he's got the gravelly Hamill voice, but he doesn't sound like the Joker, which is like every other thing he's in now, he always does a bit, because they might be asking him to do that, or like when he did Skeletor recently, it was like, yeah, that sure is the Joker as Skeletor there. Like it's... Can
I drop some Mark Hamill Scooby trivia?
All right, we're going.
One of his first voice roles ever was for Hanna-Barbera in the 70s for a Scooby Doo cartoon. So this isn't even his first rodeo, and it wouldn't be his last either. I think he pops up in Alien Invaders as well, which is the third one of these movies. And then just very recently on an episode of Scooby Doo and Guess Who, which is kind of the newer Scooby Doo meets celebrities every episode show, he plays himself. Which is really cool.
That.
And there's also a Batman episode with Kevin Conroy, and of course he shows up as the Joker in that as well. So he's in loads of Scooby-Doo.
I remember seeing a random episode of Mystery Inc. as well with
he's in that too. Yeah,
and I think he played a clown villain in it.
Oh, original.
Because then I remember at the time hearing the voice to him and like, yeah, like. We know.
There's no hide in that voice. Come on.
If anyone's listening to this and they're like, I'd really like to watch a slightly more grown-up Scooby-Doo series, but I don't want to watch Velma because it looks shit. Watch Mystery Incorporated. It's from like 2010, I think, and it's really, really good. And it has this whole kind of like series arc kind of mystery type thing. And there's loads of kind of like Twin Peaks references, and it's really, really trippy. And like Harlan Ellison shows up in an episode playing himself, and there's insane stuff in it. It's really, really genuinely very good. It's still a kid's cartoon, but it's like a proper animated series.
Amazing.
That was the thing too, actually. Again, there's one of the annoying things that happens after, like, when you record something and then you listen back when you're in editing and you're like, wow, we didn't go into that as much as I hope. I remember one point when we were talking to Dan Reba, about like, oh yeah, so any other scoops who else auditioned to be the Joker? And at one point he's like, yeah, Harlan Ellison gave like a really interesting interpretation. I was like,
wow.
And like I just sped on past that. And like in editing, I was like, wait, what? Harlan Ellison, the writer, he auditioned to be the Joker. And I was like, why didn't I say anything at the time? God
in the moment, I don't know, you don't take it all in sometimes. Something I got hung up in on this, I was genuinely astounded by the music.
Oh, yeah.
Like, every song is a banger. It sounds like our friends Zombina and the Skeletones.
Well, we should probably slip the soundtrack album to Ash and be like, I know you got a gig coming up in 2 weeks. You guys can rehearse this pretty quickly, right?
Well, I'm sort of ahead of you. I've already prepped the video to send him the song at the
Amazing.
end. Just because I know he'll like it.
Yeah.
I've literally written down in my notes, John, the ghost is here and it's always a fake. What a banger.
It
yes.
is. Dude, I was so prepped. As soon as they started, I was like, oh my God, these are so 90s. Oh, I can't wait to take the piss out of these. And then like 5 seconds in, my foot was tapping. And you're like, oh wait, these songs are great.
Yes, this rocks.
Yeah.
If you think that's 90s, I think it's the very next film, Billy Ray Cyrus sings Scooby Doo, Where Are You?
Okay, that's a bit of a downgrade.
Although in doing some research into Billy West, of course, our Shaggy for the evening, I found out apparently he is a recording artist, and like his album seems to have been scrubbed off the face of the internet.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah, but you get obviously some of them pop up on YouTube. I think it's called like FM Palm. But like the cover of it is so like early 2000s, but like it has the kind of "you wouldn't steal a car" like that kind of font, and him in a backwards baseball cap, and you're like, isn't he like 40 in this? Like, what's happening here? But it's very noticeably like, oh, it sounds like it's been sung by Fry from Futurama. It's very, very distracting.
I was going to say the only time I've heard Billy West sing was in Doug, when he's on the banjo and he's singing the song about Paddy Mayonnaise.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing that now.
He's one of the ones that you always forget, because Billy West to me is still Ren and Stimpy. Like, that's where I first recognized that was a guy. I didn't realize that before that. He was actually, because Ren and Stimpy was invented by that guy who's now a very dubious reputation, John Kay. But they made a show previous to that called Beanie and Cecil, which was a revival of like an old show. And if you look on it, I was like, it's the first ever screen role by Billy West. As the guy, John Kay is also there too. The guy, and if you watch the opening, it looks like the kind of wholesome family cartoon that Ren and Stimpy used to take the piss out of. Like when they're like, hey kids, it's Log, all that kind of stuff. But also apparently one of the writers on it was Paul Dini. So,
wow.
Yeah. And Chuck Lorre, who keeps popping up every friggin' way. Like, just can't get rid of this. I hate all his stuff, but yet every bit of research I've done this past year, I was like, yeah, Chuck Lorre worked on that too. God damn it, get away from me, Chuck Lorre.
He worked on everything, literally.
But one of the things I always forget that is like, well, yeah, so Billy West is, Ren and Stimpy, and then Fry, and then a bunch of other stuff where you can recognize it's Billy West. Like that M&M, it's him and J.K. Simmons are the two CGI M&Ms in those adverts. But yeah, Doug, the seminal part of my childhood. Doug Funny was voiced by Billy West, and I always forget that. But
I always forget that one.
Yeah, legend in our time. Like, to go through some of the cast, actually. Actually, no, we'll go back to the music, because I did want to spend some time talking about those songs.
I just thought of one thing. I was gonna say Billy West did another voice of something I liked, and then I remembered he didn't. He did like a test sort of audio, which was a bonus on the DVD of Invader Zim. He was they tested it out with him first, and for various reasons he didn't. But he didn't seem to have anything against them, and they didn't have anything against him, because I think they interviewed him on the DVD as well.
Probably again, he's not wanting for for work, I think, so he's probably quite like, yeah, sure, of course I'll show up, but
yeah.
But yeah, so these songs though, because they get the first obviously is Scooby Doo, Where Are You?
Yeah, that I wasn't as into.
I didn't mind it.
Well, now this version, John, possibly isn't the best, but the actual song, man, is it's one of the greats.
I only like the song when it's in the sort of in the 70s kind of style, and I
will respect that take.
The older stuff, because as a song, I don't like the song. You know what I mean? Like, No, it's not a good song.
Heresy.
It's a good theme for a TV show, but I wouldn't sit and listen to it. Whereas the other songs on this, I would.
Well, this is an interesting thing because I honestly didn't remember this as a kid, but apparently there was songs in like loads of episodes of Scooby Doo. Where Are You? There'd be like just these banging kind of 60s pop type songs.
Amazing.
I think it was very kind of Monkees inflected back in the original pitch. Yeah. It's but no, because then I always get, this is a weird like the thing of me getting Jack Palance and Dan O'Hurley and stuff mixed up when I was a kid. It was like, oh, old white man. But yeah, so it's, what do they call? Like, even now, I'm kind of forgetting them. So it's Third Eye Blind are the guys who do the theme in this, right? The Scooby-Doo
this one, yes, they are. Yeah.
And then in my head, I always go, when I see their name, I'm like, oh, the guys who did the Sopranos theme tune. Woke up this morning. And like, no, that's.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. And they're because no, that's Alabama 3. And I was like, I thought they did the theme tune to The Wire. And they're like, no, they're the Blind Boys of Alabama.
So we need them all to cover each other's stuff.
Those three bands in my head are just like interchangeable. They're just like, oh yeah, they're all the same people. I was like, no, they're drastically different. But for some reason, if you say 3 Eye Blind, I'm like, oh, Sopranos guys. Like, no. Oh, the guys who did The Wire. No, the freaking Third Eye Blind.
Woke up this morning, had some Scooby snacks.
But yeah, and then looking into Third Eye Blind, I'm just like, yeah, it's a bad name I've heard thrown around a lot. And I look at their picture and I'm like, oh my God, they are an early 2000s looking band. And yet I realize I do not know a single one of theirs. I think I know people. I very specifically know one person who's big into Third Eye Blind. But I don't know a single goddamn thing about them.
I definitely heard them back in the day, but I couldn't tell you what the songs were.
They're in that kind of Goo Goo Dolls vein. But at least Goo Goo Dolls, I can tell you at least 2 songs they did, because we freaking covered one for Batman and Robin last year.
I was going to say, I feel like there was a whole kind of slate of early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s kind of light rock bands that just didn't really find their way over to this side of the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Like I'd never heard of Sugar Ray or Hoobastank, or there was like all these bands on like the Daredevil soundtrack and the Scooby Doo soundtrack from 2002, and I was like, who are any of these bands?
I definitely heard of Hoobastank. I never heard the music, but I heard the name because I was like, that is an amazing name.
Knew them specifically before The Reason was their big song. And the reason is you. But yeah, that was the only song of theirs. And I just remember like, oh, what a terrible name for a band. Hoobastank.
It's amazing.
But also a terrible name for a band is the other band in this, Sky Cycle.
Sky Cycle.
What?
That is just
That sounds like something Kenner Toys would have.
Yeah, get the new Batman Sky Cycle.
Well, apparently it's specifically based on a motorbike that Evel Knievel rode. The guy who's like the head of the band was like reading an article, and it's just one of those things. Like, to be fair, it's the kind of thing I do hate about when certain bands do this, because I think like if you want to be taken seriously as a musician, you should like when you come up with a band name, it should be something you put effort into. Yeah. So when I see names like the Pigeon Detectives, and it's like, LOL, so random, I'm like, you. Like, no, I hate that. And so, yeah, we're called Sky Cycle because it's after an Evel Knievel bike. Evel Knievel's cool, right? Like, it's a very Gen X move almost as well.
I found out the other day Evel Knievel is not cool. People probably know this already. I didn't know. It was that book I'm
problematic
reading.
Or
well, yeah, that book I'm reading now about Vince McMahon.
Oh,
he sets up a stunt for Evel Knievel, and this is before he's running WWF, and he gets the guy he's in business with to come and meet Evel Knievel. Sits down. First thing Evel Knievel says to them both is, "There's 3 things I hate: New Yorkers, lawyers, and Jews."
Ooh.
And the guy who was working with Vince was all 3.
Jeez,
no.
So it's like,
well, that's another hero gone then.
Yeah, not very. And there's worse than that as well, but that was bad enough. It was like, whoa, holy crap.
Yeah,
that's one stunt he won't survive.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Niall, by any chance, have you clicked on the Sky Cycle Wikipedia page? By the way,
I did earlier today. Yeah.
the first thing that comes up at the very top of the Sky Cycle parentheses rock band page is the band is perhaps best known for their contributions to the 1998 Scooby Doo and Zombie Island soundtrack.
Oh, well, you know what? It was a great contribution.
No, genuinely, like I watched this like 2 or 3 days ago, and I've been going around in the house by myself, just going, "The ghost is there, and it's always
a fake.
The ghost is there." And it's like it's a legitimate. Like I urge everyone to go out and listen to it. And then when you were putting together your Halloween playlists, the ghost is there. It should be like that. It's a new classic for me.
I don't mean to skip ahead to other Scooby-Doo movies, but there's a song in Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders called How Groovy, and it's a love song sung by Shaggy, not Billy West in that movie. And it's basically him singing this song about the girl of his dreams. And she has a dog too who Scooby-Doo's in love with, so it's fine. And it brought forth the same emotions as some of the great love songs. I was getting so nostalgic and romantic listening to it, and it's absolutely gorgeous, that one. So definitely check out Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders as well, if only for that song, How Groovy.
I'm going to check that out, because, I mean, this alone, it blew me away. Well, the best song is their other one, though, I think. It's Terror Time Again.
No,
Terror Time Again.
That's the one that sounds like a Zombina
like
song.
Yeah,
really good.
The only 2 Sky Cycle songs that exist, like their other best one is the second song that they did.
Hey, I've briefly looked them up here. Turns out they were a big part of all the problems with MP3s and Napster. So
many people were trying to download It's Terror Time Again.
Maybe. You know, they basically, looking at it, I've only just looked at it, but it seems like they put loads of MP3s on their website because they were like, oh, this is the future. MP3s are going to be the big thing. The internet's going to spread music. And the record label, MCA, were like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
They ended up getting dropped by the label because they were putting MP3s online.
I really like that other song they did, Bill Clinton, I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Oh my God. Listeners, if
that's
you were...
a deep cut reference to illegal downloads that some of your younger listeners might not get.
If you weren't listening to stuff that you got from Napster, or I think you got it on like LimeWire, didn't you?
LimeWire, yeah.
It would always be like some song that sounded really exciting, like, oh, here's this rare song by, in my case, Korn or someone, and it was just that clip of Bill Clinton.
Oh, that's my friend, past guest of the show, Gary Gavigan. One time, he always tells a story of like when he was trying to download in like 2005 some sort of software for like it was like Microsoft Office or something like that. It wasn't that, but it was something like that. And it was this big like 6 gig file, and he's just like, he's really waiting for ages. This is back in 2005 in like university halls internet.
He was waiting for years.
Yeah.
6 gigs. Jeepers.
And then when he finally downloaded it, the guy had like the actual file was only like a couple of meg. And then the rest of it was this high-res version of Chattahoochee, the song Chattahoochee. The music.
Like a lossless file.
Was it a FLAC or something? Like,
I guess so. It was just, but yeah, Alan Jackson's Chattahoochee is now just like synonymous with like 2000. The thing is that it was one of those, it became one of those things that he would play it to everybody who came into the room. And then every time we were drinking in his room, it just went on. And after a while, it became like I think I like Chattahoochee by Alan Jackson.
It's drilled into you. And he'd be like, listen to that quality. Listen to that.
We had to stop that recently with, we discovered that Steven Seagal did a reggae song.
Yeah.
And it's proper just
goodness.
It's full on like, oh, me like a punani, like all this kind of Ali G type stuff. Oh. And then me and Jimmy kept playing it, like with one of our friends, Jimmy. And then we're at his house one day and he put it on. And then we're just like, we have to stop playing it because we're going to start actually liking it. And we just keep playing it over and over again.
Oh my God. You know what? I've got a thing where I love reggae and I love ska, actual ska. So I do like ska punk because it's like, well, let's take influence from, and you can see the evolution of how it came about. But I have a problem because a lot of ska punk bands are white, when they do The Voice.
Yes.
I won't name names, but I saw a band. I was at a festival and I thought, oh, this band sounds cool. And it turns out they were quite famous. And I wandered in, and 2 or 3 songs in, I was like, he's doing the voice. I'm gonna have to leave. I left the tent.
I was quite pleasantly surprised with because I'd never really come across the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo. But looking at it, they're like, they add a new character, Flim Flam. And you see a picture of him, it's like, he looks like he's a little Asian kid. Oh. And I was like, he's called Flim Flam. I was like, I swear to God, if I look at a clip of this and he's got like a proper thick Asian accent, and it's voiced by some white woman, it's like, but thankfully they had the sense to be like, no, it's just, he's like an American kid, I guess. So it just sounds like a normal white woman. But it's
still kind of dodgy though.
It's still a bit dodgy. This is the fact he's called Flim Flam as well. It's just very like, it's too much. Too much. Much like that's the actually problematic character in Chuck Norris's Karate Commandos. But yeah. So
Chuck Norris's Karate Commandos is amazing. Like my favorite thing about that was the kind of knowing is half the battle segments at the end of the episode, where like live action Chuck Norris will step in and go, gee, that was a close one. And it reminds me that you should always eat your vegetables or something like that. Like, it's a completely unrelated moral of the story. Just all tied into the end of the episode. You know?
But I remember he always looked like he was wanting to die when he was doing them as well. He's just like, it's like, I don't remember agreeing to this. It's like, it was in the bottom, it was in the fine print, Chuck. Like, oh, God damn it. It's like the one thing he can't get his way out of is legal flim flamming, where he's just like, oh my God, I didn't realize I had actually signed the thing. But Scooby Doo. Anyway,
Scooby Doo.
But should go into some of the other cast actually, because it is notable that they've got they've got some notable people in here. So this is Scooby himself is Scott Innes.
Yes,
and I think it was his first. This was his first rodeo with playing the character, because the original Scooby, Don Messick, I was seeing in the info, they said like, he retired in 96 and then died in 97, so he's like doubly not coming back.
Did he retire? Was he old or was he ill? Or?
Yeah, I think he was quite.
I think he was old. Yeah. This is the first time ever that someone other than Don Messick played Scooby Doo, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it's also the first time that someone other than Casey Kasem played Shaggy, and there's an interesting story about that I think John will really appreciate.
Yeah, I've seen like that. You brought up Rob, so like by all means go, because I did think this was like that's a bit ridiculous, Casey, but by all means go ahead.
It is a bit ridiculous, but now John, you might feel differently about it. So Casey Kasem, I think at this point in his life, was a vegetarian, and a very staunch vegetarian at that.
Good.
And I think they were trying to get him to come back, because it had been a couple of years since he'd voiced Shaggy, and they were trying to get him to come back. And his one proviso was that Shaggy had to be a vegetarian from now on, because if you watch those old cartoons, he's always eating burgers and pizzas and things with meat on them. Like there's always be pepperoni on the pizza, and he'd always eat like entire turkeys and stuff like that.
I'm into this.
And Casey Kasem was like, no, he's a vegetarian now. And I think because Hanna-Barbera was now owned by Warner Brothers, and they had some big deal with like McDonald's or Burger King or something like that, and they did a Burger King ad with Shaggy in it, and they used like archive voice clips of Casey Kasem or something like that, and he was like, no, absolutely not, I'm not voicing Shaggy anymore.
Oh, nice one.
So they recast him based on like, and he eventually came back, I think, when some Warner Brothers executive or something stood down, then Casey Kasem came back, and he played Shaggy then throughout the 2000s. But there's like a 5 or 6 year period there where it's like it's mainly Scott Innes, and then I think Billy West in this, where Casey Kasem was just like outraged with Warner Brothers and refused to voice Shaggy.
I support that totally. And you know what? It's not even an outrageous thing to ask, because it fits the character of Shaggy. He's like a hippie, right?
But then he also
veggies.
But he does also eat everything in sight. This is kind of his part of his shtick.
He can still eat. I eat like crap.
I suppose you never see what the innards of these sandwiches are. There seems to be a lot of like, it's that lettuce and tomato and some cheese you see occasionally, but like,
and a lot of peppers in this.
Oh yeah,
You can see meat though a lot, like, and definitely in some of the other ones, like there's a lot of like entire turkeys and like chicken legs and stuff, and you're kind of going, I mean, I fully respect vegetarianism and all that sort of stuff, but in a cartoon, is it going to be as funny if it's just like, a carrot? Or,
yeah.
I think you need the big turkey leg.
There's loads of junk food and stuff, you know, like. Then again, they could have just lied to Casey Kasem and said that's not a burger. That's that's a vegetable patty.
Yeah. Well, actually, in the live action movie, he's a vegetarian very much in the Matthew Lillard, the live action ones, and I think in the first one he has a big comically large burger, and he states that it's like an eggplant burger.
There you go. It fits the character of Shaggy. So it's not only do I support it on a moral ground, but I think it would work. I think if they didn't have that licensing deal with whoever it was in place, they could have just gone ahead and done it.
I do wonder if they ever had a discussion of like, well, maybe if you switch it and we're eating like loads of like desserts or something.
Yeah.
But then they might have been like, no, because then kids might emulate just wanting to eat sweets all the time. At least when he's having like giant stacked sandwiches, it's like, well, if you want to get kids are fussy eaters sometimes. So if they're emulating Shaggy in that way, at least they're eating proper food. Whereas like if they're just like this whole thing's like constantly like gulping down trifles and stuff, it's like, no, you don't want to encourage kids to be doing that. That's like it's horrifically unhealthy.
Well, you know what? Just give him cheese pizza. Because pizza...
But you can't stack that as well. Like it doesn't. You can't get the comically large stack.
Plus, I suppose... I know it probably wouldn't hold up in court, but I suppose the turtles have that cornered. That's their thing.
The pizza,
Yeah. Although that was another thing I wanted, because I noticed in Mutant Mayhem, they don't hit the pizza as hard. Like they just like junk food in general. They mentioned pizza in passing. I was like, well, the whole thing was pizza. Yeah. But it did also remind me that because Jim Cummings is in this as well as like the Bayou boat driver, and he sounds exactly like he did in the Turtles cartoon back in the 80s because he played Leatherhead, who was the Cajun crocodile. And he used to always have that thing, I guarantee. And like as soon as he started speaking, I was like, that's Leatherhead. Like, what the hell? And then in the new Mutant Mayhem, which I absolutely love, there is an element, though, of it being a bit of Seth Rogen casting his mates. So Rose Byrne, who is Australian, plays Leatherhead. And it's just Rose Byrne going, "G'day, mates!" And that's all she does. It's like, it's kind of a waste of the character there. It's like, Leatherhead was a big villain in the Turtles. You can do a lot with him, but... Okay. I'm not going to poo-poo your movie, though, because I did enjoy everything other element, but couldn't at least get her to say, I guarantee? Like, that was part of the whole, like, iconography, but...
I always loved that kind of accent, which meant I appreciated quite a few accents in this.
But so Scott Innes, who took over for... And then I didn't realize that the original voice of Scooby Doo did, like, Muttley and Hampton J. Pig and Boo Boo and stuff from, the original Yogi Bear. But apparently then Scott Innes took over. He walks all. He walks everything. He did Scooby and Shaggy and Scrappy. And he's done I think he did Fred at some... Even though I think Frank Welker has got like a death grip on Fred, frankly.
I think Scott Innes is Fred when they can't get Frank Welker in like credit card ads and things like random kind of like tie-in merchandise and stuff. He'll occasionally do the voice.
I have immense respect though, because like Shaggy's hard to do. The fact that you could hop from Scooby to Shaggy and then Fred also is like, geez Louise, you are a talented voice actor if you could do all three of them.
That is really a skill then.
I listened to an interview with Scott Innes once, and he said that like the reason he got Shaggy is that when he's doing his Scooby Doo voice, he has to do it where Shaggy and Scooby are talking to each other. So he actually has to jump between the two voices in order for the impression to work. And he found it difficult to only voice one character, apparently. And then when the whole Billy West thing happened and he didn't want to come back, they were like, oh, well, why don't you just do it? And that's how he ended up doing. And he was in a bunch of the games as well, which there's some pretty good Scooby-Doo video games from kind of the early 2000s that I've played far too much of in my 30s. But he's in all of those. And I think he's in like the theme park rides. And he's a little bit like, if you know Jim Hanks, Tom Hanks' brother.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Frank Welker nowadays does Scooby and Fred all the time in everything. And I think Matthew Lillard does Shaggy in most of the cartoons. But like everything else, like all the merchandise and all the kind of like games and theme park rides and all, it's usually Scott Innes. He has sort of that extra element that he steps in and does it when the money is too low for the big guys, you know.
I'm amazed that Matthew Lillard's like stuck around to do anything, to be honest. I like that he clearly he just thinks it's cool.
Oh no, I remember like when the live action movie came out first, been like, Jesus Christ, he is really good. He was clearly like a highlight of the movie and stuff. But
man, he is like the Christopher Reeve of like Hanna-Barbera. It's like those movies are what they are. They're you know, they're fine. If you were there at the time, you might have some nostalgic affection for them, and I certainly do. But he is far and away the best thing about them. You're like, oh my God, they've got Shaggy from the cartoon and just transplanted him into live action. Like He's amazing.
There's plenty of stuff I don't like in those films, but I will praise all of the casting myself. I think everyone is great.
Like Linda Cardellini as Velma.
She's great.
Is absolutely perfect as well, yeah.
Although it sticks to that trope. Is it the second one where that thing where it's she's the ugly one, and then they make her sexy? It's like, she was always sexy. Come on.
I think it happens in both of them. I think the first one she shows up in like a red catsuit at one point.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
She was secretly sexy the whole time, and then the second one there's just a bit of her going around like a tight t-shirt and stuff for a bit, where you're like, but you didn't realize it, Velma. It's like, I've seen Linda Cardellini just even in this movie. She's clearly gorgeous, guys. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, should also point out the other Batman connection there in the live action movies is that I believe that the villain of the second one turns out to be Alicia Silverstone as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Batgirl herself, or quote unquote Batgirl. But yeah,
we should talk about the like other Batman connections later on, because there's a million of them, like an absolute torrent of like Scooby Doo Batman crossovers and stuff.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I mean, like literally, you know, all the Brave and the Bold stuff as well. But again, just, you know, to round off the cast, because you have obviously, so then you can't get back the original Scooby because he's dead. And then so the Casey Kasem won't come back as Shaggy. That's fair enough. And then apparently they did get in the original Daphne, Heather North, and it says she recorded for 1 day and then was replaced. And it's like, what happened in that 1 day? Like, that's very, very damning. Like,
I love it when you hear stuff like that, though. I have to figure it out.
Yeah, it can't, unless you, like, family tragedy or something happened. It's like, well, what? Was he just sounded so much older or something? And they're like, nah, it doesn't track anymore. But then apparently that was another thing that Frank Welker was like, he clung on to the role of Fred. He, you know, notably the only one from the original crew to come back. And apparently he was on the line as well. Where they're like, no, he sounds an octave lower. We're going to have to recast. Oh. And Frank Welker, again, who's like the most like financially profitable actor of all time now because of all the stuff he's in. If you add up the box office of everything he's done a voice in, it's just like it's way billions more than any other actor and whatnot. It's so the fact that he was so protective of Fred, and he was probably like, no, you're misremembering what I sounded like, because I sound exactly the same as I did back in the 70s and stuff. And really had to convince them to be like, no. You were watching like old VHSs that got the tuning off and stuff. That's why it sounded like Fred sounds like this. I should be Fred. And they're like, okay. And yet to this day, he still is like, yeah, Frank Welker still wheel him out. He'll still show up to play Fred.
I love the way with that argument, though. Let's be honest, they're probably right. His voice probably did change. Because it naturally does.
If you ever listen very carefully to the way he says the word treasure, he always says treasure.
Right, that's a note I've got. That is a note, and I think I've become known for randomly hating American things lately on these podcasts we do. That was my question to people, and I know none of us here are American. American listeners, is that an American thing? Is that how you pronounce it, or is it just him being weird? Because it angered me every time.
I think it's him being weird. It's him, because I've seen other people point it out, like that there's compilation videos where every time Frank Welker says treasure.
It's like, what planet are you on?
Oh. But yeah, and also wanted to bring up as well, because this was the thing I did not realize until today, and I was like, oh, it was a bit of a bummer. But the voice of Daphne is Mary Kay Bergman, and I remember that name popping up way back in loads of cartoons in the 90s, and just always having that vibe of like, yeah, she doesn't do stuff anymore. I guess she just retired or whatever. No. And then discovered like, yeah, Mary Kay Bergman, you'd know her. She did all the females in South Park when South Park first started. Into the movie and stuff. She was Cartman's mom, she was Kyle's mom, she was Stan's mom, she was everybody's mom. And Wendy, she did everybody. Trey Parker, weird to hear him compliment anybody, quite frankly. But he was going like, yeah, she's astounding that she could do. We didn't think like, oh, we can have one person do all those voices. She could do all those voices.
To me, that's part of the fun of that as a show, though, is that it's like a small crew.
Yeah. And she also did Batgirl for Sub-Zero.
Yes.
She did the yodeling voice of Jessie in Toy Story 2. One of those weird.
Okay.
It always brings me back to, I think I brought it up actually to you and Austin when we met up recently. We were watching Batman Returns, Rob. That guy who is the doctor at the beginning of Batman Returns, who comes out of like the door when Paul Rubens is going in to see.
Oh, yes.
That guy. I know this is one of the things I remember from doing Batman Returns. He was the peeing voice of Leslie Nielsen in The Naked Gun. Because it's such a weird credit to have to be like, yeah, when they needed to have Leslie Nielsen going like, oh yeah, like, that was me. But yeah, Mary Kay Bergman with the yodeling voice of Jessie in Toy Story 2. And apparently, she died at like age 38 from suicide. She was like undiagnosed anxiety disorder, and people, because her mum was sick and all stuff like that, people thought like, oh, she's just stressed from work and her mum been ill, so that's why she's depressed. There's nothing to look into. And then apparently it was a full on. She was actively depressed and actually had an anxiety disorder, and blew her head off with a shotgun.
Yeah, I only found out recently as well.
Yeah, that's just one of those ones too. Like again, too, like. These things that were like, people were seminal when you were growing up, and you didn't realize what happened to them.
Yeah.
So you know what happened to Phil Hartman, but you don't hear about Mary Kay Bergman all that much. But
I think because the Phil Hartman one is just, it's bizarre.
Oh, that one, that's so tragic as well.
Yeah.
Like that's so insanely. But then of course Billy West, so good at doing a Phil Hartman impression, that for years I thought that Phil Hartman was in Futurama as Zap Brannigan, but it's just Billy West doing a Phil Hartman impression because Phil Hartman was like the part was designed for him, basically. But there you go. Back to should we try to jump into like a semblance of the plot?
The plot, yeah.
Because they show up, the ghost is there, but it's always a fake. And there's zombie pirates. To talk about South Park, actually, there's zombie ghosts. They're ghost pirates.
Yeah, like Monkey Island, the video game.
Yeah, or are they pirate ghosts? And that was the.
Oh.
You remember the episode of South Park with Korn?
Yeah, God, yeah.
Well, they come in. They're basically the Scooby Gang.
Yeah,
and they have a recurring debate about whether the pirate ghosts are the ghosts of pirates or pirates. Ghosts dressed up as pirates, or are they pirate ghosts, or are they ghost pirates, and all this stuff.
It's an important distinction.
And then everything is explained away by like a piece of wax paper and a comb. So like people keep like blowing, and all of a sudden these ghosts just appear and stuff.
Love it.
I've written down, it's always a pleasure when Scooby-Doo reminds us of the horrors of the American Civil War, because there's Confederate ghosts in this.
Yeah.
Which happens a bunch of times in Scooby-Doo,
really?
that there'll be like Confederate ghosts, yeah.
That's quite adult and quite dark as well. Like it's not just, they are pirates who died as well. Like when you see what the pirates do to the people on the island, it's like, that's horrible.
Yeah. Oh no, that's insane. Yeah. But like they actually, because at the end too, you're supposed to be like, yes, the evil was vanquished. And you're like, they did feed all their friends to like a bunch of alligators. Like that was pretty intense. Like
that's messed up. You know,
that's a real. They had it coming. You know.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, it does stress that there were other people who came to the island who were perfectly innocent, and they were also taken. So I guess just those Confederate guys are the ones you have beef with.
It's the all the ones who weren't the pirates, I guess.
I guess it's one of the things though, that the lurking ghost over the legacy of America is, of course, the Confederacy and all their.
Is it all a metaphor, like Banshees of Inisherin or a Serbian film?
Yeah.
I should point out as well, by the way, in an earlier straight-to-video movie, Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers, Shaggy himself inherits an old plantation house from his uncle. From Colonel Beauregard is his name. And he's a Confederate general.
Oh, wow.
So Shaggy comes from pretty problematic stock as well.
You know, we can't help where we come from.
I guess that's true.
No.
I suppose he's a freewheeling hippie now, though. I can't imagine he would be into...
Nah.
You know, the slave owners and things like that.
Don't get hung up about it. Did we learn nothing from, Lucasfilm deciding that Rey actually was a Palpatine?
Although I might answer the question of like, how's Shaggy affording all these sandwiches? It's like, oh no, he's got old money coming filtering through. Him and those Scooby snacks are paid for by the Confederacy, quite frankly.
Oh God, yeah.
Shaggy's a neoliberal.
Jesus Christ.
I should point out though, throughout the whole thing, one of the pleasures, particularly if you haven't watched any Scooby Doo in a while, is coming back and just them hitting all the tropes. So here's a box of Scooby snacks. You're like, there it is.
Yep.
And then all the little things, like just the sound effects, like every time they go to run, getting the bongo drums, like that's the Scooby Doo running sound effect. Every time they realize something, there's a little kind of sounds like, yeah, that's like, oh, it's all coming back to me now. That like these are just the stock sound effects we have. Like that's just the sounds of Scooby Doo. And always will be, I guess.
It's what you want. If it wasn't there, you'd be angry, right?
But on what do they call it? It's not Morningstar, more Moonscar.
Yeah,
Moonscar
Morgan
Island,
Moonscar.
Morgan Moonscar.
But going back to music again, I thought it was Moonscar, SKA, because that's a record label. Moonscar Records. They were the biggest ska record label of like the 90s / maybe early 2000s as well, but more like, you know, that when ska was big in the 90s. So basically all those bands you've heard of from the 90s will probably have been on Moonscar at some point.
It's just making me all this talking of ska is making me think of that bit in is it Police Squad or the Naked Gun? Where you have that guy, the shoe shine guy, who gives them all the info.
Police Squad.
Yeah, and then like, you know, Frank goes and gets info from him, and then he leaves, and like Dick Clark shows up.
Yeah,
and he's like, they're all talking about this music ska, and the shoe shining snitch tells him all the details. I'm like, yes, it's an underground new like sort of reggae inflected music movement, but it will never catch on with the mainstream. You know?
I forgot about that. You know, Police Squad is underrated, I think. Everyone goes on about Naked Gun. You got to see Police Squad.
Oh, yeah, the series is better than the actual movies, definitely.
I think so.
The movies, it's way more kind of like just broad, mainstream kind of slapstick jokes, but the series is much more kind of like clever sort of...
But yeah, so again, try to throw together what the plot's basically about.
Yeah.
So they go on search for actual supernatural activity. And they run into this lady, Esmeralda. Oh no, she's not. I just noticed she looked like Esmeralda from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Her name's not actually Esmeralda.
No, I was going to say, where'd you get that name from?
Lena,
that's it. Of course, voiced by one Tara Strong. Don't want to go in too deep in Tara Strong though, because we will be doing Return of the Joker next, and plus, she's all over the place in that. So
plus, at the moment,
I was going to say that
she's cancelled at the moment. So you know,
yes, she is. She's got some spicy takes about ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
But it's this other thing where she's been fired from a new project she was doing with Alex Hirsch from Gravity Falls.
Yes.
And it's because of a tweet she made, which was interpreted as being Islamophobic, because she's very Jewish. And she was criticizing Hamas, and then she kept saying their plan is to take over the world, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it was I mean, you know, no matter what you think, you could accept what she initially said. It's the building on it with all the
doubling down.
Yeah. And I kind of got the vibe that like she's trying to say, I didn't mean them as in all Muslims. I meant them as in this one specific group, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll see what happens after that anyway. You know, Tara Strong, of course, much like Billy West in everything all the time. Whether she still will be by the time we get to Return of the Joker is another matter, but we'll see. We'll see.
Even if she's not, I think we will deal with her work separate from this issue.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but I get the vibe that Lena's not supposed to be white either, and Tara Strong is very white, so. Some, a little bit like, well, wouldn't do that these days either. But
it's hard to tell with both with cartoons in general, but also it's these accents. As an English person, I'm always it throws me off. I'm like, where are they from again? Yeah. What? But I love it. It's a great voice.
Yeah, and she just basically comes along with like, you're looking for ghosts, eh? I got a real ghost for you right here. And it takes them out to the old. It looks like a plantation where they're going to. This little old house on the island.
Oh, 100%.
And eventually they find out that the ghost is there, but it's not always a fake. It seems like there's genuine, active, supernatural shenanigans afoot.
I'll tell you what, one of my favorite bits in the whole thing was when they're trying to prove that, no, it is fake. And like, pulling on the zombie's face.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, my
so
God.
good.
That is the proper, like, that's pretty hardcore, Fred ripping the head off a corpse.
I've written down, we really needed the franchise's first ever. Oh, fuck. When Fred pulls off the head. Like,
that was the time to do it.
If ever it would have been earned. Yeah.
No, although I'm pretty sure in Velma, there are plenty of F-bombs in there.
Have you watched Velma, by the way, Niall? Like, is it good or?
I watched, started it, and then like about 10 minutes in, I was just like, I'm just not feeling this at all. It was really, really trying too hard to be like, not to sound like a Gen Xer myself, I was like, it's just trying a bit too hard, man. Like, it really wanted to be outrageous and in your face and, you know, so meta and all this, and it's like, nah, man, you're just...
Because that's exactly what I heard. Like, I've nothing against kind of shows trying to be progressive and all that kind of stuff, but someone described it as like, no, that this is literally what Republicans make fun of modern media. This is what they make out modern media to be. Like, it's almost like a parody of that.
Mm.
And then Mindy Kaling is kind of a piece of work now anyway.
Yeah.
And then to top it all off, Scooby Doo is not in the show. So I'm kind of like, what's the point?
That's the thing going on, because again, there was that Velma and Daphne live action show as well.
Yeah.
Also, just like, yeah, no Scooby. It was like, what have you people got against Scooby Doo? Like, he's a title character for a reason, man. People love this dog. What are you doing?
See,
I like at least with live action, you have the excuse of like, that's the most expensive element of the whole enterprise, is like making this cartoon dog that speaks, and you need CGI and you need a budget and all that. You know, so it would make sense if there was like a live action teen drama of Scooby-Doo and there was no dog, but like, it's a cartoon, like, put the dog in there.
I remember seeing that photo that was going around viral for a while. It was like a thing, like a screenshot from Twitter, where it was the cast at the 2002 premiere. So it was like Freddie Prinze Jones, Linda Cardellini, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Matthew Lillard, and people are going for ages like, I was wondering who was missing there for ages, then I realized Scooby-Doo isn't real. Actually looking at them like, there's something not right here, there's something that should be there. Like, oh, the freaking CGI dog, oh yeah.
CGI Scooby is kind of like the Dustin Diamond of the Saved by the Bell cast. It's like, he's the one that no one hangs out with.
I don't mind any of that stuff really, though. Like, you know, doing a different spin on stuff, great.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to like it because a lot of people prejudged it before we knew all of this.
Exactly.
Because they were being misogynist and racist and things. But then every single thing I have heard about it from like reliable sources is like, oh no, that does sound bad.
I think it united the internet. The one with a few that and Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
was just like, everyone came together for a second. The right wing were like, yeah, this Velma's terrible, and then the left wing are like, no, you're right. Yes, it's absolute garbage. We found a thing that's so heinous that there's like, both sides are like, no, man, we can shake hands on this one.
Oh,
there's some really interesting, going back to Mystery Incorporated, the one I was mentioning earlier on, that they do some kind of like it's still a kid's show. They couldn't like outright address it, but they do some interesting things with Velma that kind of subtly implies that she is kind of queer in waiting and you know, trying to come out but doesn't know how to deal with it and that sort of stuff.
That's cool.
It's another reason I'd recommend that show. Like, it's not outright stated and it's very subtle and stuff like that, but they do cool stuff with that.
No, what's also like too that Matthew Lillard is like, oh, that's your perfect Shaggy voice as well. It's Kate McCucci doing which is also what you hear Kate McCucci as Velma. You're like, oh yeah, perfect. Like that's you don't need anyone else to ever do that role now. Just she is now the Frank Welker to Velma as Frank Welker is to Fred. I think I'm like, just got her to do it for the rest of the time and stuff. Except obviously Mindy Kaling's now doing her as well. But.
Oh, and actually now that I think about it, in some of the newer like animated movies for kids and family audiences stuff, that there is at least one of them where Velma like fancies a girl. And like there's no big deal made about it or anything like that. It's just like part of the, you know, so that's pretty cool.
I do remember that was one of the things though where it was like I felt like it was a preemptive strike on Mindy Kaling's part though, where the first announcement of it was that she came out swinging going like, that's right, Velma's not white, go f*** yourselves, as if like everyone had already been attacking her, and it was just like, no one's said anything, what are you talking about?
I thought you were going to say, that's right, a girl wants to play Velma.
But that was the vibe, because then it was also like, but Velma was also, she wasn't, they did a live action TV movie where she was Asian, and nobody cared then.
Nobody cared,
Yeah, but it seemed it 100% had the vibe of Lisa Simpson a girl wanting to play football. As if Mindy Kaling was also, I guess she was just getting ahead of it and been like, that's right, I'm going to have to come out and be like, fuck you before you've even said anything. But it was met with a reception of like, nobody said anything until you brought it up, man. What's your problem?
The live action TV movie where Velma is Asian was more controversial because Fred had brown hair in that. Like, more people were annoyed about that than Velma being Asian, I think.
I mean, that is unforgivable. Brown hair on him? No.
But then that's one of the things, though, of like Scooby lore, because I remember seeing that. I didn't watch that. I saw that it was on. I was like, looking after my niece one day, and it's like, oh, this thing is on TV. But it was kind of like, yeah, this is the prequel to the live action movies. But you're like, is it though? And most Scooby lore now is just like, does the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo count? Like, what, with them going like, yeah, we've never encountered anything supernatural. Shouldn't Shaggy and Scooby be going like, no, we had to catch 13 ghosts that we set free and stuff? Or is it just like, no, all Scooby lore is just whatever show you're in, wipe everything that came before, just understand it as the basic characters and nothing, there's no like, thing that you're building on. You can just sort of go from the base upwards. So that live action I think it was marketed as a prequel, but it's like, well, it's not really though.
To answer your question, yes. The continuity is so haphazard. Like they made an animated movie called Scooby Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost that purported to be the final episode of 13 Ghosts Scooby Doo, and everyone was so excited. It was going to be amazing, and then the continuity was just all over the place. Like they in that movie that they're supposed to be only 16, even though in the 13 Ghosts Scooby Doo they're clearly adults. Like Shaggy has his own house in that show, and like there's all these other things.
Clearly, that Confederate money is coming, still pouring in. That guy has his own house in this economy.
Flim Flam shows up, and he's like, he's 18 now, and you're like, well, hang on a second, he was like a baby in the old cartoon. So what age is he? Everyone's supposed to be here, and it doesn't make any sense. And at one point, Flim Flam mentions Scrappy, and Fred's like, who the heck is Scrappy? So they just wipe their. And then of course at the end of the movie, sorry to spoil this, but it's really not a great movie. At the end of the movie, that there's this implication that actually that all 13 of the ghosts were just hallucinations.
At least
maybe it's not
real ones.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. Yeah, it's so yeah. Continuity in Scooby Doo is all over the place, and I agree, Niall, that I think it's called Mystery of the. It's not called Mystery of the Lake Monster. It's called Curse of the. Anyway, whatever it's called, the live action prequel thing. As much as I've no problem when actual supernatural stuff shows up, it has to be like after the status quo, where that for years they've only been encountering kind of fake monsters and masks and stuff like that. You can't have their very first adventure be like a real ghost.
Yeah.
It kind of breaks the whole formula.
But also I did watch quickly. I wasn't going to, and then I saw that Elvira was in it. And I was like, holy moly! I did watch the sequel to this, Return to Zombie Island. Yes. And there's a bit in it where Velma's talking about like, yeah, we've never encountered anything genuinely supernatural. It's like the whole movie was about the fact that like, yeah, the ghost is usually a fake, but this time it was real. And now you're telling me you're coming back to the same place. And Velma's like, no, we never encountered a real ghost. Like, what the hell did you think that was then? Jesus Christ.
It's like the X-Files all over again. Scully never believing anything.
No, 100%. 100%. And then when we get to, this is one of the things that I had like, I was a bit flummoxed by, because I was like, there's no way that they're just ripping off a thing here. But when you have all the zombie ghosts going around as various chases, and it's all very well animated of just like these skeletons getting the flesh hanging off them, and it's just like it's hardcore and stuff. But then it reveals who the real villains are, because of course there's a mistress of the island portrayed by Adrienne Barbeau, and what's her name? Lena is her sort of confidant.
Protégé,
and it's revealed that they are in fact werecat people.
That surprised me when it was revealed they were cats, because I'll be honest, I didn't think they looked like cats at first.
Well, yeah, they're werecat people, and what they do is suck the life out of people to prolong their own lives.
Which made me think they were bats.
Well... But as well, and then you're kind of like, oh, Adrienne Barbeau, Catwoman, hey, whatever. But I was also like, that's the plot of Sleepwalkers. Like, the 1992 Stephen King classic that nobody talked about. The awful, awful Sleepwalkers. Wherein, you find out that, the villains in it are this, a teenage boy and his weird mother, and it turns out that they are werecat people, and they literally are sucking the life out of people to prolong their own lives. So it's like, and also that movie has a cameo by Mark Hamill where they completely waste him as well. And it's like, whoa, what was bizarre coincidences to be? It was like, we're it could be that they were like, we just need something. Oh, I watched this terrible movie last night. I don't think anyone saw it. Sleepwalkers. Yeah, cat people. We can do that. Yeah, we'll work with it.
We'll take that.
Yeah. So the whole final act, I was like, this is Sleepwalkers. What the hell? I'm getting the image of Magginamic, like dancing around to Do You Love Me in an empty movie theater and stuff. Because Sleepwalkers, it's terrible, but it's also like, it's really, really fun as well. If you're in the mood for something that's absolutely garbage, but hokey. And it's got a whole weird thing with like the central villains are like a mother and child. They seem to have like a kind of bizarre incestuous relationship going on. And there's a great bit where Glenn Shattuck gets his arm ripped off. And it's just like running away going, I'm sorry. And it's just in the most like, not the actions of a man who had his arm just fucking violently ripped off and stuff. But so Sleepwalkers, I recommend it. But yeah, the same ending. So I was like, oh, it's the same little twist. But unless there's some sort of cat god where cat people sucking the life out of people mythology that I've missed somewhere. But not that I could find, immediately to hand. Could it be the same cat gods that Patience Phillips came across in the hit 2002?
What a deep cut.
Catwoman, as played by Halle Berry.
Oh my God.
Also, an episode we've done in the past as well. So.
One of my favorites.
That was a good one.
But got some stuff, though, because I feel we almost owe Adrienne Barbeau an apology, quite frankly. Because she was mentioned in the season past. But we had a new guest on at the time, and we kind of mentioned in passing, like, oh, Adrienne Barbeau, and it was Catherine Coldire, and she had a whole thing where she's written a book about junk film and like all these terrible movies she's amassed, and she was like, oh man, yeah, friggin' if Adrienne Barbeau's in it, it's going to be a bad movie, and internally at the time I was a bit like, but I was like, I'm not going to blast a new guest, but like, what the f*** are you talking about? Adrienne Barbeau's a goddess. But yeah, we should formally apologize to Adrienne Barbeau because she is in many, many classic things, and is a very well accomplished actress in her own right. She was the first actress on Broadway to play Rizzo in Grease. She's a proper good old fashioned song and dance lady. Like she's classically trained, full blown actor. And yeah, it's one of those, again, another cultural blind spot between the US and here, where I think she first came to fame from playing the daughter on Maude, which is, I only know from the Family Guy joke about how long the theme tune to Maude goes on.
Oh, I remember that joke, and I didn't know what they were talking about, yeah.
Yeah, all I know about it is it's like, oh yeah, it's like the Amelia Earhart wrote a lot of airplanes, except for that one time where she didn't go. And just like, just goes on and on and on and on. Back when Family Guy was good, it did happen. There was a time, and yeah. But apparently, Adrienne Barbeau, that's what she was known for a time. Then she married John Carpenter, who some people might know as a little known filmmaker. On the set,
mainly known for gaming nowadays.
And just love it. Yeah, known for gaming and just not giving any kind of a about anything. He's just so like, the other day, and they tried to make it a thing where people are like, oh, John Carpenter lambast Barbie, and then all the people in the comments going like, who fucking cares what this old fart has to say about Barbie? And if you read the quote, he's just an old man going like, yeah, I watched Barbie the other day, just didn't get it. That's just it went over my head. I mean, it was great. I mean, she's fantastic in it, but just
which I understand. I loved it, but like, how's he going to connect to it?
Yeah. He's an old man who's just like, some crazy new films they're making. I'm going to die soon, so whatever.
He's so kind of just dismissive and doesn't really care about anything. But then you ask him about his new Halloween scores, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they're great. Yeah, really good. We put loads of time and effort into the whatever." And it's clearly just like Where do I sign? Where do I get my check? And God bless him for it. Get money, get paid.
It's like, what did you think of Halloween Ends, John? Yeah. I'm disappointed those checks won't be showing up to my house for a while, I guess.
That's what makes me think maybe it hasn't ended.
Yeah. But yeah, of course, then Adrienne Barbeau went on. She was in Swamp Thing, the Wes Craven, Wes Craven Swamp Thing, one of the first productions of a young producer called Michael Uslan.
That's right.
Now a guy who does nothing but make Batman movies. Michael Uslan, him and Benjamin Melnicker, who of course have their name plastered over everything. We talked about them way like in the opening credits of '89. But yeah, one of their first things when they couldn't get the rights to do Batman was like, we're making a Swamp Thing movie with Wes Craven. And Ray Wise is playing Alec Holland. And you're just like, how isn't this like the biggest cult movie ever? Like the caliber of people involved, that's insane. Yeah. And you watch it and you're like, it's just not that. It sounds more cool to talk about it than it actually is a cool movie. But
I always remember, did you read the Boy Who Loved Batman? His autobiography?
I've seen him plastered all over social media and stuff, but I've never read it myself.
It's well worth a read. It is very self-congratulatory. Like it's basically like, I just rolled my sleeves up and started knocking doors, and it's basically a whole book of that about how this boomer made $1 billion. But he has this story in it about the production of Swamp Thing and how they were doing this really, really dangerous stunt, and like it was a really low budget movie, and the stuntman came up to him and was like, listen, Michael, I don't know about this stunt, man. I think I'm going to need some kind of protection or insurance or something like that, in case something goes wrong. And Michael was like, oh God, this is going to sink the whole production. And he was like, well, what are you thinking? And he was like, yeah, $100 should probably cover it. So they just paid him an extra $100 for the day.
Well, I mean, it shows. It's very much like a movie like, oh, they filmed this in the woods outside their house. Kind of like, it's like, oh, it's supposed to be deep in the jungle primeval. Like, no. It's very clearly in the, the Silver Lakes or whatever.
You got to be comfy.
Yeah. But yeah, other than just, other things I found notable about Adrienne Barbeau. Because, yeah, we didn't really get to talk, we won't get to talk about her in Return of the Joker. And we didn't get to talk about her about Mask of the Phantasm, but she's one of the big Batman voices. Of course, John, we remember from Carnival. Oh. Remember she was the snake charmer lady, and then the classic undersung, cancelled way too soon HBO show Carnival.
It's a masterpiece.
Clancy Brown, etc., etc. And yeah, and of course then she divorced John Carpenter after making The Fog with him and Escape from New York, etc., etc. And then she apparently married the brother of Steven Van Zandt, Silvio from The Sopranos, which I was like, I did not know that.
Amazing.
Yeah, and she also did the voice of the computer in Demolition Man, which is
the most important thing there.
Yeah, but not the John Spartan, you have been fined. But she's not doing that. That's obviously a guy, but like there is a female computer voice in Demolition Man that she does.
And we may have joked about it before, but clearly we need to do Demolition Man Minute, but it'll be called Demolition Min.
Yeah. Demolition?
Oh,
Minute-lition, yeah.
It's insane that's not been done. Demolition Man is such a great movie. But yeah, one other thing too is that apparently she co-wrote a book called The Vampires of Hollywood with Michael Scott.
Michael Scott?
Which is just one of those, what? Like, I know it's just a common name.
No, it's not now. Like, no.
Yeah, it's up there. Like, you can't be called Homer Simpson. You just can't. Like, you can't go around called Michael Scott anymore. You're going to have to change your name. I'm sorry, man.
Well, as soon as you said the name of it as well, I instantly thought about that parody of like old Hammer stuff that Steve Coogan did. Dr. Horrible. Is it Dr. Horrible or Dr.
Horrible's sing-along bloke?
No, it's Dr. Terrible. That's it. Dr. Terrible's House of Horrible. That's it. Because there's an episode of that called The Lesbian Vampire Lovers of Lust.
Oh my goodness.
One thing I also almost completely forgot to say, but should say though, for and everything's connected. Adrienne Barbeau also appeared on The Drew Carey Show. Where she played the mother of Diedrich Bader's character. Of course, Diedrich Bader is sort of now that Kevin Conroy has tragically passed, he's kind of like the de facto Batman voice, for better or for worse. He's great at it. Like I can't knock it, but like I've yet to hear Diedrich Bader he's always doing Batman in a kind of slightly campy way. Like he's always kind of got a sort of arched eyebrow as he's doing it. I don't know if he has been tested to do like could Diedrich Bader do Mask of the Phantasm? Like
I think Diedrich Bader is doing the Caped Crusader cartoon, isn't he?
Which
is kind of a serious cartoon.
So I guess we'll find out. That's going to be like, was he gonna can he pull off proper serious stuff? Unless it turns out like, oh no, the Caped Crusader is actually it's just the Brave and the Bold again. That one poster they kept showing you does not convey the tone of the show whatsoever. But we'll find out, you know. But yeah, so
can I mention one other cog in Adrian Barbeau's illustrious filmography?
Please.
It also involves a dog, and it also involves a DC alumni. So obviously she's she's known for Catwoman in Batman the Animated Series. She also appeared in a movie with Dean Cain and Mario Lopez.
So Christ, it's not like the dog that saved Christmas.
Please.
You betcha, baby. The dog who saved Christmas. Yeah. She's in that, and she basically, the dog who saved Christmas is very much a rip-off of Home Alone. And she basically plays the equivalent character to... is it James Cromwell who plays the creepy old homeless guy in the first Home Alone?
Oh no,
he's not homeless. He's just the.
Oh no, he's just the neighbor. But it's not James Cromwell. Yeah. It's a guy who looks loads like James Cromwell. But
okay. Well, she basically fills that role in The Dog Who Saved Christmas, and she befriends the dog at the end of the movie, and she's just this lovely old lady. And the Dean Cain is doing Joe Pesci in that movie.
What?
And it's one of the most dreadful films. And all throughout the movie, we were watching it going, man, this rotund protagonist, he looks so much like Kevin James. And we were like, I wonder if it's like, he looks like he could be Kevin James's brother. And then we looked it up, and it is, in fact, Kevin James's brother.
The genes are strong in that family.
I used to do a podcast called Enslaved by the Bell, where we went through every single episode of Saved by the Bell, and they're all still up there. We made it through the entire original series, and we made it through most of the college years, but we also did an episode on The Dog Who Saved Christmas.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite episode that we ever did, so you can look that up.
Right, I'm watching that. That's going to be my Christmas movie this year, because I mean, it's Home Alone, but better, because there's a dog in it.
It's so bad. It's really, really bad, but I would watch it.
But yeah, so where cat people, the two villains, one of them looks like Esmeralda from Hunchback of Notre Dame. One of them looks like Denise Crosby from the early seasons of Next Generation. Or the early season, and I just freaking the one and done.
Yeah, get it right.
Yeah. Although she kept trying to claw her way back in. But
oh yeah, she was in. Yeah.
I got the impression, I've never heard her say this, but I got the impression she quickly regretted leaving.
Oh, totally. 100%.
Oh, big time.
But yeah, we get the climax where they confront these cat people. We do find out the backstory of they were settlers on the island, and then these Confederates showed up, and then
no, pirates first. Oh wait, no, hang on. Which one's first? Is it the? Wait, and now
I think
mixed
the
up.
settlers were Confederates, weren't they? And then the pirates showed up after that, and they killed all the Confederate soldiers.
Yeah,
was it?
That might be it.
Fed all their friends to alligators, which is hardcore.
Yeah, forces them into the water to be eaten slowly by these alligators.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And then
reminded me of, have you seen Pearl and X?
Oh, of course,
A24?
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned on the show before, controversially, I really didn't like X. But then I decided to watch Pearl anyway. Loved Pearl. It was amazing.
I thought Pearl was just okay, but I really liked X.
I think if you like one, you might not like the other so much. Maybe that's the way. Which is why I'm intrigued for the new one. Will I like it? Will I not like it? Let's see.
No, X will always be the I'll have a special place in my heart because it came out like the week after the Batman did, and so I went to see it, and it's like a 2-hour movie. But I wandered out after, and I was just noticed that like the IMAX door was lying open for Batman. And I was like, I'll take a pop in just to see where they are. And it was literally just starting, and like no one was stopping me. And so I just sat through a 2-hour movie, and I was just like,
let's do it again.
And just sat down, watched 3 hours of Batman, and I was like, I just got that for free. Fantastic.
That was like me Barbenheimering it, except I paid.
Yeah.
The perfect crime.
And then they had these people made a plea to their cat god, and apparently in this universe, the cat god exists. Because it turned them into... That would be one of my things. If I was Velma, and I was, the intellectual of the group, beyond it being like we now have confirmation of an afterlife and genuine supernatural things,
and gods,
you would be like, there's a god. There is a god. There's a cat god. Maybe I should be praying to this cat god now, because that seems like apparently it's some sort of deity that like it can actually grant you immortality. Basically, if you suck the life out of people, it's going to make you immortal,
and it's proven to be true.
Yeah. So it's absolutely. But they just brush past that. They managed to defeat them. And another very hardcore bit, though, where they turn them into the dust, and it's fantastically animated and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh, you know, the bit leading up to that, I thought was also horrific. Like driving...
The melting faces.
The melting faces, because they're melting like the voodoo dolls. And our heroes start melting, like it's Indiana Jones or something.
It's like proper body horror, that bitch. Yeah, it's amazing.
If I was a kid, I'd genuinely be terrified.
So I think nowadays, when you look at this, like coming to the first time, you'd be like, "This is a claim that's been like the best Scooby Doo movie." Yeah, I mean, it's good and stuff, but what? But imagine, back in '98, when you've only just seen like the original run and stuff, and all very tame, made for TV kind of Scooby Doo. Things like that would really bump it in. It's like, oh man, they're taking this seriously. Like this is there's a threat now. It's not just going to be Old Man Withers. Like it's going to be someone. So yeah.
And to the credit of 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, like it is kind of a silly show, but like that opening credits where it's like, you've opened the chest of demons and only you can return. It's like, it really sets up this insane kind of jeopardy that they've never faced before. It makes it feel really, really epic.
Although, because Daphne and Fred and Velma don't feature in that. Do they ever, like, the Shaggy ever try to call them and be like, guys, we really need your help on this one?
No, and that's kind of like they play on that in that movie, Curse of the 13th Ghost, where Fred and
because
Velma
they're just like, so
what?
you just never showed up, you missed that entire section of my life, kind of thing.
Flim flam, like what the hell are you talking about? And they're like, that was the summer when you guys were away at camp or something like that.
But now we have, as is our wont, we have now talked for longer about the movie than the length of the actual movie. So.
Yes,
that's what you do when you break things down, you know.
Yeah, but shall we finish off? Like, this is the Halloween special, so should we say Happy Halloween to everyone and give our final thoughts on Scooby Doo and Zombie Island, a movie that did feature Mark Hamill that we didn't really talk about, but he was there. He was in there somewhere, you know.
We've talked about him plenty.
Yeah.
I actually didn't realize he was in it, even though you told me. Like it was after the fact. I was like, wait a minute, hang on. He said Mark Hamill was in this. I was like, oh god, yeah. Yeah, no, I really liked this. I wasn't really looking forward to watching it, I'll be honest. I disagreed. I was like, okay, fine. Ended up really liking it. It was a lot of fun. If I had kids, I'd especially be like, oh yeah, they're watching this. Because kids have to be a little bit scared, you know?
Oh,
yes, absolutely.
And and just introduce you to the classic band Sky Cycle and their lengthy discography.
Best known for their work in this film.
They'll be confused when all of a sudden they've got loads of Spotify plays because everyone in the listener's cave is just playing Sky Cycle.
The reunion tour is imminent. I have no doubt.
Let's just leave Sky Cycle on loop so they get like 1 million plays in a month.
Although I did find that apparently. Because I thought, like, they must have wrote all their own material and stuff. Like, no. The lyrics were written by the screenwriter. And the actual the songs were written by a guy called Tom Snow. And he's written for, like, everyone. He's written for, like, all the major acts. But the one song of his that really stood out to me was that he did Let's Hear It for the Boy. From the Footloose soundtrack. You know, the Let's Hear It for the Boy. I was like, well, that's a banger. So, of course, he wrote, and the ghost is there, and it's always a big... it makes perfect sense to me now. So, yeah, fair play to Tom Snow, I guess.
Yeah, bloody hell, nice one.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Rob, while you're here, have you got any final words for Scooby-Doo versus Zombie Island? Well, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island? In Zombie
Scooby-Doo
Island?
on Zombie Island. I just, the Scooby-Doo franchise in general is just so fascinating to me for some reason. I can't really explain why. I really love Scooby-Doo. Like, as much as I love a lot of superheroes and stuff like that, I find it's just a really, really fascinating franchise. And this is like one of the key chapters of it. And I I think it holds up really, really well. I did briefly mention earlier on that there's like, this is obviously Bat Minute podcast. There's like millions and millions of Scooby-Doo things where he meets Batman. There's the classic episode, the new Scooby Doo movies from the 70s, where he meets the Hanna-Barbera version of Batman from Super Friends. And like Casey Kasem plays Robin, which is really funny. There's I mentioned Scooby Doo and Guess Who with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill is really, really good. Scooby Doo and Batman, The Brave and the Bold, Diedrich Bader's in that. It's also good. And then, most interestingly, there's a movie from 2020 called Happy Halloween Scooby Doo. So perfect time of the year to watch it. And in that movie, they go up against Scarecrow, like just the Batman villain Scarecrow. And Batman isn't even in it. It's just Scarecrow is in it. And it's Jonathan Crane and everything. And he's played by Dwight Schultz, who you guys will remember Reg from Next Generation. And he's also in The A-Team.
Yeah, Mad Dog Murdoch.
Yeah.
I have not seen that movie, but apparently it's... I just love that, like... You know, Scooby-Doo is so entrenched in Warner Brothers now that like he's pretty much just part of the DC universe.
Why not?
And they could just use him whenever they want. And there's a really kick-ass one, promote my other podcast, All-Star Superfan. There's one out now called Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2. And he meets Superman's dog Crypto, and they have all these adventures in the Hall of Justice. And the fucking Phantom Zone gets opened, and General Zod is flying around the place. And Lex Luthor is amazing in that one. He's really, really funny. So there's a bunch of like really cool Scooby-Doo things that are well worth checking out. And they're all like, other than Velma, they're all, you know, suitable for kids if you have kids and all that. So definitely check them out.
Yeah. We probably should. We mentioned it way back in the Batman and Robin season. But of course, one other notable Batman Scooby-Doo connection is that during the big bike chase scene with Alicia Silverstone, Chris O'Donnell, and Nikki Cat, there is the graffito tagged image of Shaggy in the background, which we talked about at the time because we thought it must be like a little like, well, this it's Batman and Robin. Casey Kasem was the voice of Robin, so there's the image of I remember we just got into the whole thing that episode because it was I found out that it was one of those things of like opening so many doors I didn't realize that like, oh yeah, Shaggy's based on an old sitcom character called Maynard G. Krebs. And like I just remember from The Simpsons of like Homer imagining bombing the beatniks and going, "Take that, Maynard G. Krebs." I was like, "Oh, so that's what that meant."
Finally made sense.
Because I thought it was complete nonsense. Because it's just those words just don't make sense together. But then find out like, no, it's based on a guy. And then you look up Maynard G. Krebs. And it's like, oh no, that is just Shaggy. It just looks like him, sounds like him. The whole thing's right there.
I didn't know where you were going. I thought you were going to say, oh, well, of course, Coolio was in that scene. And Coolio had one song on the Scooby, which I don't even know that he did, but he probably did.
It would make sense.
It's the very tail end of his career. He probably had a song in the Scooby-Doo soundtrack.
I mean, I meant to ask, too, like, we were talking about Evel Knievel and Sky Cycle earlier. Evel Knievel probably met Scooby-Doo at some point, right? That feels like a thing that would have happened back in the 70s. So like,
yeah, maybe. I think
for some reason I can imagine that outfit and that cape and that helmet in Hanna-Barbera animation hanging out with Scooby-Doo. I don't know why. Maybe he as a person just lends himself to Scooby-Doo so much that it would seem insane that he wasn't there. But
actually, a really just really nerdy sort of semi-Batman connection. John Astin, who played the Riddler, the only time Frank Gorshin didn't play the Riddler in Adam West Batman, John Astin played him once in season 2. But John Astin was obviously much better known for playing Gomez in The Addams Family, the iconic 60s version of The Addams Family. Scooby-Doo met that version of The Addams Family in the new Scooby-Doo movies, which was the show where he'd meet celebrities every week. And that episode, for some reason, is the only episode that they're not allowed put on the DVDs because John Astin's estate won't allow his voice work that's in that episode to be used in media for some reason. So it's like lost media, and the only way you can get it is to download it illegally or catch it on TV.
Yeah.
Because they're still allowed to air it, but they're not allowed to release it on and I think when they finally released the DVDs of that season, they literally put it on the box that it was like most of the episodes or like all the episodes that we were like legally allowed to release.
Because John Astin's still going too. He's like 98 or something, but he's still clinging on.
I thought it was. Oh, so he's still alive.
Oh,
okay,
yeah, shockingly so.
Yeah.
I thought he must be long dead. No. It's like, no, John Astin's still cracking. Like he's still
eternal.
Yeah, so he might.
And they're good. It's a good episode, man, as well. It's a good Addams Family story, like, and it makes sense. And it's all set in their house, and there's all this spooky stuff going on.
I like to think though that he's out of spite to Scooby Doo, the Scooby Doo producers, he went to his cat god and requested everlasting life. And so that's why he's just like, yes, John Astin will be around. Like the original Morticia died in like 1980 or something, but like no, Gomez remains.
Well, he's all dead, clearly.
Yeah. I think he's still, like, on occasion will be like, if you needed the voice of Gomez, they'll still call on John Astin from time to time. Raul Julia couldn't make it, but John Astin is still going. God damn it.
Yes, I suppose we should, I was going to say go into the dark night, but that's not Scooby-Doo related. We should
I guess they do go into dark nights a lot.
Oh, yeah.
In that Mystery Machine. So.
We'll hop
the very first episode was called What a Night for a Night with a K.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Now, I'll edit all that out. Pretend that I got it right first time. We're getting in the van. We're heading off into the dark night. We will be back soon with more nonsense, I'm sure. Yeah. Don't know what it's going to be yet. We'll figure it out. Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears flapping. I don't know. What do you do with ears? Keep them unblocked. Get all that wax out so they're nice and clean and ready for more Bat Minutes. And speak to us, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual. Can't be bothered with that. Rob, have you got anything you want to promote before we disappear?
All-Star Superfan, we have a special Halloween episode coming up where we review the sort of Superman horror movie Brightburn, which needs to be seen to be believed.
Is that a James Gunn thing too? Did he have something to do with that? Or am I...
Yeah, baby, his two brothers wrote it and he produced it. So it's James Gunn's like forgotten Superman movie, basically. Yeah. And we also have an interview coming up with the second most iconic Superman actor from the 1990s, Gerard Christopher from the Superboy show. So we have a whole interview with him. It was that guy is one cool cat. Really, really interesting stuff from him. I'll tell you guys some stories after we finish up here, but definitely check that out as well.
Excellent. Yeah, check it all out, everybody. And we're out of here. Have a lovely... Well, no, not a lovely Halloween. Have a horrible Halloween. Horrible, just the worst. Absolute garbage day and night. I hope you rot.
And instead of gorging yourself on sweets, try to see how high you can stack a sandwich and then how easily you can eat it without permanently doing damage to your jaw.
That can be the challenge in the group. I'm sure only Dave Pallas will take it up, but if anyone wants to fight him... Do it. Post it to the group. Make ridiculous sandwiches, and send a vegetarian one over to me. I'm hungry. See ya.
Remember, girls, show the world. Let them know it's Halloween. Hit it.
Scooby Dooby Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby Dooby Doo, where are you? Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you, pretending you've got a sliver. You're not fooling me.
I must have
tiefet habitane.